Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to Making It, presented to you by Fireside. I'm Terry Woolman, your host, and my guest today is musician Tom Brechtlein. I appreciate you joining us every week, and I'd like to share my intention that inspires this podcast. Time passes quickly, and I've learned that we should do what's in our hearts and do it well without apologies or excuses. I encourage you to create your life and art in your own unique way and express your artistry with joy and with abandon. Be willing to work uncompromisingly for what you believe in. Success will have a better chance of finding you when you live your life with integrity, focus, and passion. Be selfish with your discipline and selfless in your performance. And don't forget to have fun along the way. Tom Brechtlein grew up in Long Island, New York, and gravitated to playing drums after listening to the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Who, Cream, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience. When entering high school, like a lot of young musicians in the early 70s, his attention turned to jazz. When Tom was 18 years old, he saw Chick Corea and Return to Forever on PBS Television and remembers sitting there thinking, I'm going to play with this guy someday. 2 years later, in 1978, he auditioned for Corea and got the gig, performing and recording together till 1983. Their musical relationship and friendship continued throughout the years. Other artists Tom has played with include Wayne Shorter, Al Di Meola, Joe Farrell, Jean Luc Ponty, Robben Ford, Eric Johnson, Ricky Lee Jones, Kenny Loggins, Natalie Cole, Melissa Manchester, the Manhattan Transfer, and me on my first record, Bimini. Tom Brechtlein, welcome to Making It.
Hey.
There's so much to talk about, as there always is. And one of the things is that we don't live in the same city anymore. We did for a long, long time. You moved.
Oh, yeah.
You actually moved to Los Angeles in 1980 and with a gig. I believe so. And in 1981, a year later, I moved here with two guitars and a dream. I didn't have a job, but we pretty much both hit the ground running when we moved here. And I wanted to just ask you about that. You know, you came with a gig, and we'll be talking about that later.
Right.
But you didn't just, kind of sit back and think, oh, I'm playing with somebody famous. I'm cool. I don't need to hustle or do anything else. So can you talk about that for a second?
Well, I mean, I actually wanted to stay in New York, but I ended up in Los Angeles. And even though I was touring and stuff and making some dough, I mean, when I was on tour,
right,
I ended up paying a little bit of rent to two friends of mine at their apartment, and I was sleeping on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have a car yet, and so I'd go back and forth from Los Angeles to New York, because it was working out that I moved to Los Angeles and then I'd get work in New York, and then when there was a little bit of time there, like around 1980, then I go back to New York, and then I get work in Los Angeles, and it was going like, I mean, of course, this is like 1978, 79.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the old thing, we walk 10 miles to school. Well, we didn't have any internet back then.
That's true.
And we had rotary phones, and if you were Mr. Big Shot, he had the touch tone phones with the squiggly wire to the receiver,
True.
And now we're there. Oh man, we used to deliver milk to your house.
Yeah. How'd that happen?
How did that happen?
Well, life. I mean, right on schedule, actually.
Yeah. So I'd go back and forth, and finally, at the end of 1980, around December, like into 81, I decided, okay. Well, no, actually, I didn't decide. I went to Los Angeles because I had some work there, and then I ended up staying there, and then getting local work, and then starting working in some studios. I mean, not like huge stuff, but stuff that was cool. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then you had to. It didn't matter. Like, you're right. It didn't matter who you worked with. It's the same thing. you have to let people know you're there, and then you have to do a good job and get hired again and stuff like that. And actually learn how to be professional by flying by the seat of your pants in my case, you know.
How do you mean?
Well, you know, like keeping, you know, I mean, stuff that we already knew, but I had to let's put it this way, when I first came to LA, I had to really force myself to just make sure I didn't double book anything.
Right.
You know, and that happened not a lot, but a few times, and those few times, maybe once or twice. And realizing that wasn't a good thing, you know, and all the ramifications that came with it, you know. That was the biggest lesson I learned.
Right.
And also, you need a car. If you're going to be in Los Angeles, you need a car.
Right. Yeah. And you don't want to burn bridges.
No, you don't, you know. And
I heard you saying in
stupid, well, we don't all do, not all of us, but I did some stupid stuff when I was younger. I was about 22, 20, 21, 22, 23. I was probably, I was 21 when I finally, Los Angeles, 21 going on 22. I mean, I make it sound like a horror story, but you just learn to just learn to treat people like you'd want to be treated. That's all.
Can you give an example? You don't need to mention names, but like something that you thought was stupid.
You know, see, I didn't know the protocol of Los Angeles. You know, I think
is it different than New York?
What's that?
Is the protocol different than New York?
I don't know, because well, maybe both in New York and Los Angeles, just, you know, to just be yourself, you know. And,
right.
You know, like when I first came, like for instance, when I came to Los Angeles, you know, there were mostly people that were getting work, and it's the same old, are the people that were basically playing maybe more so like rock or R&B or pop or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was just for me, it may not be true, but what I was getting is like, it was kind of taboo to be able to play jazz in some respects, although the jazz musicians that are over there it negates what I'm saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you had Billy Childs, you know, for
mm-hmm.
one.
Right.
You know, and Joey Heredia, who's great. And,
yeah.
just to name a few, you know, and just a lot of great people. Larry Klein, he was a great upright player as well.
Right.
Incredible upright player. And they played with Freddie Hubbard, and they played with all those guys. But, you know, I was pretty green. And so I didn't want anybody to know that I played jazz. Until one day I just had this thing like, hey, well, you know, I wouldn't walk into a party and try and be somebody else,
mm-hmm.
you know, because I like to play all kinds of music, you know.
Right.
They do. They at least around that time, you got pigeonholed, especially
that's
with the
true.
gig
That's
that
true.
I had.
That is true.
So,
but
he does that. That's what I think. That's what I was trying to arrive at.
But and musically, Tom, yeah, my perspective of you as a peer and friend, and also a fan of your musicianship, is that you've always been equally at home in jazz, playing with the top jazz musicians in the world, or rock pop. You know, you turn around, I see you on TV with Kenny Loggins, and
that took a long time.
It did, yeah.
That took a long time, and I had to go find it. They weren't calling me up, going, "Hey, you know," it was.
Right.
It was just, you know, I really searched for it, you know.
You put yourself out there for that.
Yeah, I put myself in that position, or as best as I could, you know, because I'd be on session sometimes. I play on a rock session, and they go, "Hey, I didn't know you could do that," and I would say, I should just shut up. I said, "Well, you never asked." So anyway, but until the time I said, well, you know, like I wouldn't walk into a room trying to be somebody else, you know,
mm-hmm.
to please somebody else. So as soon as I made that decision, then I started getting more work, more a variety of stuff,
Right.
which was great. And then that's when it really started. That was really good. That was a really good thing.
Let's talk about. I want to talk about you growing up and everything in your family, and but before we do that, I want to talk about something that I think is really wonderful about your life, and there's two things. I'm just going to tie it in, and you can tell the story. But on February 10th, 1978, at 10 p.m., you got a phone call that was a life changer for you.
Yeah.
And I know the date because I heard you referring to it in a previous interview.
Oh,
yeah, I'm not stalking you.
Yeah. You don't forget time, form, place, and event on that sucker.
Exactly. And the other thing is, through your friendship with Mike Garson, a wonderful musician, you learned a really interesting life lesson, which is about how being open can lead to unexpected life-changing opportunities. And I know that Mike, you spoke about Mike being a catalyst to this connection.
Well, what happened is I was growing up on Long Island, and I was taking lessons from Mike, and I wanted to learn how to play in a trio setting. So I figured instead of taking, in retrospect, I should have done both. Instead of taking the drum lessons for that, I asked somebody who plays in a trio, like one of the main. Everybody's the main guy in a trio, but the main melody and soloists and whatever would be the piano player. So, so I figured I'd start taking lessons. So we just did these little duo things in his living room, and then he got a synthesizer one day, and then we finished the lesson, and he got the synthesizer. He put it on. It was not a Univox. It was one. It wasn't a Moog synthesizer. It was one of the other models, And he put it on top. He just got it, and he hooked it up. And he said, "Let's play a little bit." And so we started playing some fusion-esque or jazz rock type stuff. Now that stuff I really knew at the time, And then we just started jamming, and he looked at me like, "Wow, I didn't know you could play that stuff." I said, "Well, I'm not here for that. I'm here for learning how to accompany a pianist in a trio setting,
Right.
And with, and then we just started playing these duets, and it was killing. It was really cool. So he turned on the boombox one time and recorded, for those you younger folks out there who don't know what a boombox is. It's a cassette player recorder with these two, well, whatever you would say would be huge speakers on the side, and
all built in. Yeah.
You put a cassette in there. If you don't know what that is, Google it.
Look it up. Yeah, right. There's a thing called Google.
And so he was doing the Modern Man record with Stanley Clarke, and he was friends with Chick Corea at the time. And that's who we're getting to.
Right. And so, for those who don't know, Tom, you played for years with Chick Corea. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
For those listeners who don't know, Chick Corea kind of put you on the map in some ways.
Yes.
As one of your first major artists.
First major gig.
Right.
So he came back, and he, I think that's why you asked me that question. So
it is.
So when he came back, he says, "Look, I spoke with Chick, and he's looking for a drummer, and I mentioned you." So he said, "I think what you should do is get a demo together." Well, I did with a friend of mine, Peter Zinsmeister. Now he goes under the name of Peter Z, great keyboard player. He lives in Arizona now. And so we got together with him and Mike Faseglia on bass back in the day. And I can't remember the guitar player's name. It was incredible. And we did this demo in this at the studio in Franklin Square in Long Island. We did that, and to make a long story short, what got to him was not the demo that Peter and I got together, which we were gonna. The purpose of that demo was so we could get gigs.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I figured make it twofold. You know, he needed it so we could get gigs, and I needed it to present it to Chick's office, you know, or Chick. What would we forget the Chick? So what actually made it was the boombox jam that was in the living room that day. And
Right, not the produced one. Right.
Yeah. But what sparked everything going was he, you know, I was talking with Mike, and he said, well, what do you want to do, man? And I said, well, I'd like to teach, because I was going to college for a music education degree.
Hmm.
I don't even think they had performance degrees in those days. I don't know. I didn't care. What I wanted to do was go to New York and starve, and then do studio work in New York and
Right.
play with everybody I could. But I went from 1 to 10, like, anyway. But so if I ramble, don't mind me. You know, I mean, previous interviews with other people, I just kind of ramble like this.
That's all right.
So he drew 2 circles on the wall. I mean, with his finger, of course he didn't draw 2 circles on the wall with a magic marker. You get in trouble. Anyway, so he said, I said, well, I'd like to teach in a high school or college or something, and then go on the road. He goes, well, you really can't do both. I mean, you could, but it's hard work. But he says, you really can't do both. He drew 2 circles. And he goes, anyway, you want to do this or you want to do this? The left circle was the education, or you want to be a player. And I went,
great question.
And there was no hesitation. I go, oh, I want to do that. I want to be a player, and go like, oh, I want to do that, And as soon as I made that decision, that's when the ball started rolling, the whole thing with Chick and blah, 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 blah. You have to make a decision on what you're going to do. And I mean, it doesn't say you can't teach,
Right.
You can do that. I mean, you can, you just have to work it out. But I was still too young and too unorganized to be able to handle that, So,
but it is pretty great that you saw Chick on TV on PBS and said, someday I'm going to play with that guy.
Well,
and 2 years later, which could feel like an eternity, but it's a pretty quick, it's a pretty quick shot from the intention and the thought to the actuality of it happening.
Yeah, and that's it's making the decision. I mean, it could have been longer. It depends. It depends on I guess you say that the power of the decision or whatever. But it definitely leads you in a direction when you make any decision, really.
Mm-hmm.
You say you're going to do that. You say, I'm going to be an artist. You go and you study art, or you go, maybe you already, you want to learn more about art. So you find a sponsor to, I don't know how it works. You put your painting in a gallery, and then somebody buys it. And then from there you go ahead, and I think that's the thing with every career, is to just.
Well, I also think the fact that you had the sort of the intuition or the wherewithal to say, I want to become a better trio player. So instead of me asking a drummer, I'm going to ask one of the other musicians in a trio. I'm going to ask a piano player.
Yeah.
I mean, that curiosity, that openness actually enabled you to begin your career.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. Well, obviously I knew what I could do and I knew what I couldn't do.
Right.
Which is through the whole thing. You go and you got to confront like the stuff you can't do. You go, even now I go, okay, now I'm going to practice the stuff I got away with,
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's, I mean, the old adage, it's a commitment, which it is. It's like, once you're in, you're all in, and that's it. You're all in. It's nothing else. I mean, nothing else matters, but it's just saying you're all in to do it. And that means learning new stuff, practicing what you don't know, and and keeping the stuff that you do know in check, by just going in the garage and just keeping it well oiled,
So let's talk about your practice, literally. Your practice as a drummer, your practice as a human, because it's not just one thing. It's about practicing being healthy and having a good life and remaining curious, all the things that you're talking about. You started playing when you were 5 years old. Is that right?
I started taking interest when I was 5, and then when
Interest.
I was 9, I went through the school program. I even told my mom. I said, I need to take lessons because I need to know how to read.
Yeah, I heard you say
I
that
was
in
like
another
8,
interview.
I remember that
Who
day.
says that?
I just like a little adult, I guess. I mean, that's what the moment was. And I remember I was in the living room, and I said to my mom, I said, I want to take lessons because I have to learn how to. I mean, uh, read drum music or be able to play
Hmm.
and read. I don't know how that came out of my mouth or why, but I knew I had to do that. And it was not that I'm recounting it. I was just like, it's pretty wild. It's
I
sort of,
thought so too, and I heard you say that in another interview. And I think that it you really had a lot of um, you sort of had a clear idea. You might not have had a clear idea of how to do it or what you wanted to do, but it seems like you had a really good music education, also in high school, junior high school, and in high
yes, and
school and
elementary school,
in elementary school. You had teachers who saw your talent, and they pushed you off the cliff a lot, or
Yeah,
encouraged
yeah,
you
they
to.
did. The major one. Well, that area of Long Island, and probably in the New York area, had a great. I mean, as far as music education went, band programs, jazz programs that were there. For anybody who wanted it, choir, orchestral, wind ensemble, everything from the elementary school on up. And I was definitely fortunate to be at in these schools uh, Meadowlawn was, now it's called McVeigh, was the elementary school I went to, and they had regular band, group lessons and stuff like that. But they were really great teachers that cared. They
Mhm.
just did their thing, and it was to nurture that talent that all the kids had. And I thought was really good. Just simple, no more than just you play in band, you learn how to play in a band, and that kind of thing. And then when I went to junior high, I think it was in 7th grade. Yeah, there was a guy's name is, and he's still there, and I mean, we keep in touch. His name is Kenny Seppi,
Mhm.
and he played in Manhattan. He played on all the shows. He probably played in a lot of big bands too, but he was also a professional guy. And I remember because I was just so used to group lessons, and then but he was tough. And I remember he was saying how many. He says, "Okay, you guys," he goes, "you guys, like you got to, I'm just going to test you guys because a lot of you guys like to just do it by listening." And he goes, "What's the value of a dotted quarter note?" You know, and I knew what it was, but I just went. I
Mhm.
immediately, I knew, I knew what it was, and it was like dotted quarter, dude. But I mean, so uh, when it came to me, I screwed up the answer, and of course, then he put us on this thing called 3 R's Book One. You know, and you know, and back to the beginning, and I was pissed.
Right.
I didn't say anything. So,
Were you just being a
but I
wise
didn't. I
guy
couldn't
when you?
have to practice the lessons because I already knew how to do that. So we were. I think it was the second group lesson, and I'm sight reading this stuff.
Mhm.
And he goes, and he comes. He goes, Brechtlein, come here. He goes, you're not practicing. I said, well, I played it right. He goes, yeah, I know. You sight read it really well. He goes, this is like 7th grade. He goes, he noticed it right away, which was great. He goes,
Mhm.
I want you to take private lessons. I said, no, I don't want to take private lessons. He goes, why? And I said, well, because that's a snob thing. I want to be with the guys. He goes, don't worry. You'll get to play with the guys in the percussion section, And he goes, another thing, come here. And so he brings me into the drum closet, and he goes, and there's set of timpani there. And he goes, for those of you who don't know, there used to be like, Monday night at the movies, Sunday night at the movies, Saturday night at the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And there used to be this timpani roll. This timpani thing that used to go, dun, 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 dun. So he said, play Saturday night at the movies. And I went, sure. And I knew exactly what he meant. I went, dun, dun, dun. He goes, good. Here's a pitch pipe. Here's the Ludwig timpani book. Learn how to do, do you know what a fourth? And for some reason, I knew what a fourth was, or sixth, or whatever, And he goes, good. He goes, you're also playing in the 8th grade band and the 8th grade orchestra. So I got 2 gigs,
That's fantastic.
That was the beginning of the thing. I was like, oh, crap. Now I got to learn, And he made me, in the 8th grade band, I had to learn this. But I learned it by heart because I knew how to for some reason, I knew how to read music, but I memorized it where everything went. I don't have to read it, so I played the glockenspiel as well. So that was I forgot all that.
Like, so you had a really broad training.
Yes.
You at an early age were had great guidance and mentors to teach you to be not just a drummer but a musician.
Yeah, John O'Reilly, my first private teacher, was amazing and became one of a bigwig at Alfred and had his own band teaching method, and he was great. Half-hour lessons, and we went over a lot of stuff in a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And then, of course, they nurtured you for the high school, which Bill Katz ran and he was incredible. They ran that music department there was amazing. It wasn't a private school, but we had 3 jazz ensembles, 3 choirs, 3 orchestras, 3 wind ensembles. And then jazz ensemble was on Friday, and you had to audition every year to keep your seat. And we didn't play the high school curriculum. And we had, for the jazz ensemble, we had guys come in from New York, like Dave Berger, and rehearse the big band. And I was there in all 3 years. There were 3 big bands, and I had to fight to keep in the first big band all 3 years. I mean,
right. You had to re-audition every year, right?
Oh yeah.
And
then you get challenged if somebody wanted to take your seat.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a great way to combine the education with as close as you could come to the real world with gigs. And then when I was 16, 16, Mike Carubia, who was the guy that did he ran the modern arranging course there. He did it on his own, under his own steam. And also we did a improvisation class on our lunchtime where we played tunes. So that's how dedicated to music the East Meadow High School music department, was.
Well, didn't they also have a recording program as well? You guys learned to record.
And we donate so we could record a record every year at Echo Sound Studios, right behind Howard Johnson's, which became became off. Once Howard Johnson sold the building, it became the off-track betting place. It was right behind that place, and it was a great studio. And we recorded every year. And then,
so I have a question for you.
What's that?
Sorry to interrupt. I have a question for you that I'm curious about from those recording experiences, because I was, of course, we're friends. I know your history and your pedigree, and we've played together for years. And
yes.
But your first album credit, when I was looking through credits, was in 1978. Your first major album credit was playing Secret Agent album with Chick Corea. But
that's right.
So my question would have been, did you feel ready to record? Because recording is different than live performance. But knowing that you had this background, having been able to record in your school band, how did those early recording experiences prepare you for recording and touring? Did you feel like you had? What was it like when you did that first record with Chick?
Oh, it was great. It was great.
Of course.
I was so naive back then that I just went and did it, and it really didn't. I wouldn't say I was intimidated. I think I was too stupid to be intimidated at the time.
Kind of a blessing.
Like, yeah, we're going to record. This is like, this is these tunes and we're going to record them. And, and it's like, and it came out great, it really did. And just to like, I was just, and I mean, and it did help recording those big band records back then, because I kind of knew how, I mean, if I say I kind of knew how things work, but, basically you learn how to tune the drums. You let the engineer mic the thing, right? And then you sit down. If you know the tune, you play. If you don't, I kept it as simple as that. I mean, I think that saved my butt,
It's also authentic because what's really coming through also is just your love and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And excitement.
And to hear that playback coming back and going like, you go, whoa, you just, that's what it was, when we were recording Secret Agent, and I mean, there were really cool stories of those sessions. And, I mean, like I stayed to watch Chick overdub the solos. And then finally and we had already been on the road 3 months.
Right.
But to hear that classic Mini Moog sound coming over the thing, that fat Mini Moog sound that he had, and listening back to it while he's overdubbing, it was like brand new. It was like the first time I'd ever seen him play.
Right.
And it was like, I'm going, oh my God, he's doing, but we did it every night, on the road, but it was different hearing it over. It was the wildest thing. I mean, first time I played with Ayrton, I played this tune called Drifting. And, to me, Ayrton, I mean, geez Louise. He is still my hero, one of my heroes. And, I remember he came in at that time, he had black hair, this beard was like here, he had these, and anvil cases with eye, ear, toe on it.
Oh, right. Yeah, I saw those.
Pronounce his name correctly. And he's coming in and he's like this. He
was a commanding guy, big presence. Yeah.
So we did this thing where it goes, right? And the vamp goes, and the two goes, da da dee da 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 da. Right. So we did the first take and we're listening back to it. And I'm listening, oh yeah, this sounds really great. I was still intimidated by Ayrton, and all of a sudden he goes, bang! And I go, whoa! He said, did you hear that, man? I said, oh, what did I do? And he says, man, it's great, because he was playing the pandero, and it's like, and it was going, it was making a flam each time perfectly. He goes, man, that sounds great, man. It was good. I went, and then I just kind of looked at him and went, yeah, sure, yeah, I meant to do that.
You're talking about your very first time recording with Chick, and just you're speaking about it with this memory that is crystal clear, like it happened yesterday. And my memories of us recording my first record are similar. I was just so excited because I had heard music a certain way, or the music I was writing, and then we were in there and we would just be there and play it and then listen back, and it sounded like a record, and it was thrilling, and you kept me laughing because that was
at Pacifique, right around the corner from my house.
At Pacifique, that's
literally next door,
right,
to our house.
Yeah,
in North Hollywood, and it was you, me, Abraham Laboriel. Was it Dave Witham playing, or was it Rich Ruttenberg playing keyboards?
Pat Coyle.
Pat Coyle.
Pat Coyle played one day, and it wasn't Dave. Right. It was Rich Ames played the second day.
That's right, Rich Ames.
And then
but it was me and Abraham
and Dean Parks played one of the days with us too, because I wanted to have two guitar players in the band. I think Dean was with us one day. He might have been with us both days. And then Paulinho DaCosta came in, and Joe Sample and other amazing people. We had some horns, and Ernie Watts and Brandon Tower Power horns, and Brandon Fields. It was just, I just was going for it. But I always, we've talked about this, over the years, but you did, you brought a couple of things to the table for me. One is that you just played your ass off. I mean,
Well,
you
thanks.
totally played it the way I envisioned it, but you made it your own. And also, again, you brought a sense of humor to the what was pretty stressful for me, because it was trying to get it all done in 2 days and everything, and
Sure.
we were laughing, because
Yeah.
one of the things that I don't know if you'd ever thought about this. I know humor and comedy is important to you. I don't know if you've ever thought about being a professional comedian, but you're a jokester. You're a funny guy. You love making jokes and
With
making
my
people laugh.
friends, it's a whole different story if you're doing it. I never tried it, but I could tell. It's different.
But anyway, I thanked you before, but I now get to thank you publicly. Like, you fulfilled a dream for me,
Well, thanks, man.
in a first record. And here's like an example, like the magic that happens in those first albums, and in a lot of recording sessions or collaborative sessions, because collaboration is really the key word here. I've always believed I surround myself with greatness, people like you, other musicians, and then I prepare. I have a really clear idea of what I want to do, and have a plan, and everything. But there's still, leaving room for just not micromanaging everybody. And one perfect example, we did, I don't know if you remember this, but we played a ballad called Reflections that turned out to be an 8-minute long song. It was so exquisitely beautiful that I never did a radio edit. It just, we let the thing play out. But we played it. I said, I talked everybody through, and we said, okay, well, let's try one. And we played it even before we had time to get a click track up. For non-musicians in the audience, a click track is literally a digital metronome, just to make sure the tempo stays locked in. And particularly for a ballad, a slow song, it's another skill that we have as studio musicians. But the first take that we did, we didn't have a click track. We just ran it, hit record, went back in and listened, and it was exquisite. It was literally perfect, absolutely perfect in every way. And then we thought, well, let's do one more with a click, just because we forgot to get the click going, and that one wasn't as interesting. And the one you hear on the record, if you want to get an idea of the level of pocket and groove and time that a drummer like my guest today, Tom Brechtlein, has, and all of the musicians that played with us, go listen to that song. You can find it on Spotify. It's called Reflections. The album we did is Bimini. I don't normally talk about my stuff, during this, but you were so much a part of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like every artist, you know what you want. If we go straight from that, then you just kind of push us in the right direction, and then everybody makes it happen. So it sounds good. It sounds that simple. Sometimes it is that simple. Sometimes it isn't.
I think it was that simple because of who I surrounded myself with. I had you and Abraham and the other guys, and these are, you all kind of had more recording experience than I did. I had recorded on other records, of course,
right.
But this is my first album as an artist, and I was, I just felt supported by you guys. Like, you allowed it to be simple. And as a matter of fact, Abraham had said before we started, he said, I just want to remind you that it doesn't need to be difficult for it to be great.
That's right.
Yeah. And
That's right.
and I said, okay. And it wasn't. We just played. We talked, we played, we had lunch, we played some more, we laughed.
That's right. I mean, it
was a great lesson for me.
Yeah, that's what a really, you get the job done. And I mean, but you get the job done without, it's not a job. It's
right.
Fun, and you happen to get paid for it at the end.
Absolutely. So by the way, you were talking about when you were in high school, where there were so many wonderful music classes, including choir. Were you in choir? Was that required? Because I saw that there's a Robben Ford album that you played on that you've got credit as a for background vocals that you were singing?
A tune called "Busted Up." And I sing an octave higher than Robben does.
Do you sing live with Robben as well?
Yes, I did. I sang backgrounds. I also sang backgrounds with Ricky Lee Jones. Some of them. The only reason why I don't promote it that much is because, playing this, just keeping my concentration on this. I think if I did it more, I could do it really well, but not like Dean Castronova, man.
Or how about Don Henley? He certainly figured out how to.
But if you checked out Dean Castronova with Journey,
right.
Not only does he play great, but I think at Steve Perry left, I think he sings faithfully, I believe.
Didn't you tour with Journey for a minute? Hey Tom, didn't you tour with Journey for a minute?
No.
What? There's a rock band.
No, I that's another story.
Okay,
we'll going around, but okay. Let's put it this way: I almost had the gig. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fine. Next subject.
I don't want to get myself in trouble with anybody, and I just happened to mention Dean because Jason Sheff played me. They're in a band together, and they do a cover of "Faithfully," and and it's live, and first of all, he's an incredible drummer, he's an incredible musician, and he's singing his ass off while I'm talking. It's just incredible, So it's just like, it's incredible. You'd have to, if there are any, I don't know, look up Dean Castronova on I don't know, YouTube or something.
YouTube, yeah, absolutely.
While he's singing, it's like you go, holy Christmas, It's
so Tom, since you mentioned Ricky Lee Jones, one of the artists that you've played with, I want to take just a couple minutes of this conversation right now. I'm going to throw out a few names. We can start with Ricky. Just something that was a highlight for you, something that you remember about the experience, and let's start with Ricky. We've already talked a little bit about Chick, of course.
Yeah. We were playing the Wilton Theater, and it was the end. It was the last gig of the tour before we took a break, and it was just before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing the show. It was going really great, And then she decides to take off her shoes and start improvising stuff. And she would just point to me and Paul Nowinski, who was the bass player at the time, and we were just riffing. But it was the most amazing. It was the most amazing thing I witnessed. And then we just, and she directed the band. It was almost like the way James Brown directs the band, like Now You and then. And it sounded like it was a complete piece of music, and we were bopping. It was killing too.
Was she singing also?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's great.
Was singing
and leading,
and leading. She does anyway. But but it was incredible. It was just, and that night happened to be a really. All the nights were great, but this particular one was just fantastic. Just watching her from the drum seat perform. It was. She invited a friend on stage to sing, and it's like, and it was something to witness. And my mother-in-law was in the audience too. She was over from Scotland visiting, and she said to Evelyn, she goes, "Oh my God, she's amazing." I said, "Yeah, you picked this was a good night to pick."
Yeah,
it was incredible. And the thing about Ricky, is all those really cool chords that you hear in her, and the horn arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
That's all her dictating, singing what notes to play, and she doesn't have a lick of theory.
Yeah, right.
But she knows how it moves, and it's incredible. Even with vocal harmonies, and it's just like. She's a genius.
Joni's like that also. You listen to the demos of Joni Mitchell, and then you hear those Tom Scott horn arrangements. Many of those ideas were things that she did vocally.
Yeah.
Also self-taught.
4 or 8 voices,
right. Absolutely.
Or it's beyond me, I'll tell you.
So I want to ask you about Leonard Cohen next, but you just mentioned Evelyn. Evelyn's your wife. You've been married for
39 years.
39.
This past August 27th.
Incredible and wonderful.
Yeah.
If it's not too personal, would you mind sharing the story of how you and Evelyn met?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
It's a great story.
Try and make it as short as possible. But Evelyn and I met through Ron Moss, who used to manage, who at the time wasn't managing Chick, but when I got on Chick's band, he was managing Chick. And then he decided to take a hiatus. So Evelyn came over. I think she was 18 or something like that. And I was still living in New York, and I went to this place. No, I'd come back, and I was trying to put a band together, and I recorded some stuff. So I went to Los Angeles because Ron heard the tape. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm just, and so he wanted me to remix it there. So I went to Los Angeles, and Ron picked me up, and then we went to this place called Blackie's in Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that place.
I don't.
I don't either. But anyway, so we went to Blackie's, and I went to see this band called Daniel Webster.
Mm-hmm.
And Evelyn's brother was playing guitar, Justin. And I said, man, this band's really good. But the guitar player's particularly good, too. I said, wow. So while I'm doing that, I'm hanging with my buddies. Another buddy of mine who's one of these computer geniuses back in the day, still is. He was there, and we were just kind of hanging out. Meanwhile, I found out later on, about 6 months later, that Evelyn was in there on the side, under 21 side of the bar. And she was working with Ron, and they were developing the band Daniel Webster. You play like Madame Wong's West, Madame Wong's East, just all the new wave stuff was coming out.
Right.
And so she tells me after I think we were even living together, that she saw me, and she goes, that's the guy I'm going to marry. And so I guess I had no choice in the matter. So
of course not.
She didn't know who I was. And then I had a meeting with Ron at his house, and of course Evelyn, the office was out back. It was in the house, at his house. And he said, well, Chick Corea's drummer's coming to meet with me. And she didn't
put it together that you were Chick Corea's drummer.
She thought I was probably, because at the time she didn't know much about jazz music, which is really weird because she ended up, running the whole show at Chick Corea Productions later on.
Yeah, for most of her career.
On all those Electric Band records, production coordinator. But anyway, so she thought it was going to be some old guy with a bald head or something like that coming in. And I walk in, and then apparently, this is what she told me later. She walks in, she sees me, and she goes, and she was like, she kept her cool because I didn't know. She goes, that's the guy I saw at Blackie's.
Right, that's the cute guy from across the room.
Yeah. Right, whatever. So, actually, we started, trying to get Ron. We started talking on the phone and had these great conversations. And it was just so easy to talk to her. I mean, and a lot of people who know Evelyn know that she's very easy to talk to.
Yes.
Very open, and she's just terrific. But we would just have these conversations, and it was like, oh my God, I'm keeping you from your gig, Right.
You basically had a phone conversation, like a phone relationship, and you just became friends.
Yeah, and then on gigs, playing with Al Vizzuti and Bunny Brunel, because they managed those guys. And with the gigs, I'd sit there, and Evelyn and I would hang, and then me, like that stupid thing, like, I don't want to wreck the friendship. Wreck the friendship, which is a lot of crap, It's either in or out, So it's like, at least I think that way, but
Look, you married well. You both did.
Yes. So then, to make a long story short, we went out, and finally we went out. Well, actually, it was the night before I was out with a girl, and then the day, she goes, you want to go to the beach today with me and Julie, which was Ron and Ron's daughter. And I said, no, the next day, I think it was on a Sunday. I said, well, I actually have a gig in San Diego on Sunday. why don't we go see a movie tonight? And I still didn't have a car, so she picked me up, you know. And then at the end of the date, just to make a long story short, I mean, we ended up on the hood of the car just talking all night until 6 a.m. And the next thing you know, on the third date, I asked her to marry me, and she said, "Yeah."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we've been married for we've been together for about maybe 40, 41 years, but married for 39. You know?
It's so fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a lucky dude.
Yeah, she's a great lady.
Great this lifetime, or if you believe in past lives, maybe I've done something before that really good, because
you deserve it. You both deserve each other in the best of ways.
But, I think I got the better end of the deal, but
So thanks for sharing that. And by the way, I'm going to ask Tom a few more questions about a couple of artists that he's worked with. Anybody want to jump on board and ask a question or make a comment? Feel free. I don't have my moderator, Dr. Lisa, today, but I'm keeping an eye on the screen so I can accept your invitation to the stage. But Leonard Cohen. You played on 1988, I'm Your Man, and I think you've done some other things with him. I've had the opportunity to meet Leonard back in the day too. I thought he was really wonderful. What's a highlight from working with Leonard?
Well, I mean, I got the Roscoe Beck called me up because he worked with Leonard, in like I think around 78, the same time. With his band Passenger at the time,
right?
And of course, Roscoe and I continued working together with Robben Ford with the Blue Line Group. But anyway, it was around that time when we had the Blue Line. And Roscoe called me. He says, "Can you come down to, I can't remember, I think it was the old RCA studio. I think it was in Santa Monica. I don't know. I don't really know. I can't remember. But anyway, so it was to do a track for Leonard."
Right.
So I went in. I had the drum set was there. Remember when he had Carnage and you just had to walk in? Those days back in the Stone Age. And so I walked in, and everyone, he couldn't have been more cordially. I just remember, we're working on this tune, and there's the little 808, the Roland 808 going, tuck, 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 and then they just got the brushes out. All they wanted to go was go, tuck, tuck, tuck. That is it.
Right. No.
Or I played the rims. I can't remember. But so.
Was Leonard in the room with you?
Oh, yeah. Leonard was in the control room.
Yeah.
And the first thing Leonard says, he goes, "Tom, do you smoke?" I go, yeah, I smoke. What kind of cigarettes you smoke? And I said, I did Marlboro Reds at the time. He goes, "You hungry? You want a piece of pizza?" I said, "Leonard, it's okay." He goes, No. I get you some cigarettes and some pizza. It's fine, What do you like on your pizza? Leonard, it's fine. What do you want on your pizza? He goes, two slices of pepperoni. He goes, "Okay, I'll be right back. You want anything to drink?" So he comes back, with a pack of smokes, 2 pepperoni pieces, 2 slices,
right.
And a Coke,
Sweet.
And that was pretty much it. We did the track, and then we were done. Thank you very much. He gave me a hug, and that was it. Pretty short and sweet. But it was just the way he was there to make you feel comfortable.
Right.
He had nothing to say, as long as, I guess, if you were doing it, if you were on track with it, it was a very easy session to do.
It sounds like it.
And then I found out it was the title track on the album later
Right,
on.
I'm Your Man.
And then it's in movies and stuff like that. And I'm going like, if you want a lover, I'm your man. Thank you, Roscoe.
Yeah, great call. You recorded with Manhattan Transfer. Did you tour with them as well?
Well, I didn't record with Manhattan.
Oh, you
Transfer,
didn't?
I toured.
Okay, you toured with them.
Yes.
That seems like that would have been something musically fun.
Well, Larry Klimas, it was a lot of fun. They were fun. They had a great sense of humor, and they were all really fun to work with. And Larry Klimas was playing tenor at the time, and Cliff Almond was playing with them, but he had to do some gigs. And so Larry gave them the heads up, and they called me, and then so I did the I did this Japan tour with them. We had a great time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Cliff was thinking about leaving anyway. So then that made an easy transition for him. I don't know. You'd have to ask Cliff that. I can't speak for
Well,
him.
I'm asking you, right?
I'm sure that's the way it was. And then they asked me to do a bunch of other stuff, and then I worked another year with them, and then it was just spot dates after that. So, but it was a lot of fun. It was,
right. Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
I would be remiss in not asking you something very important, part of your life personally, and it's about your love of dogs. I know your doggies are so cool.
Yeah.
They're really special, but they're a really important part of your life.
I've had a lot of dogs. Now we only have Isabel, who's
Right.
and she's 8, and she's still a pup. She's a Bergère Picard, and if you don't know, the reason we didn't even know what we were getting into. We saw this. Evelyn saw this dog on the TV. There was this Travelers Insurance commercial of this scruffy kind of dog that looked like it was smiling all the time. First he buries the bone and goes, "No, that's not safe enough." Then he puts it in a deposit box. The dog says, "No, that's not safe enough." He goes, "Oh no!" And then finally he gets Travelers Insurance for the bone, and he can keep it at home, and it's insured. So he says, "We got to get one of those dogs." I go, "Oh yeah, sure, check it out." Well, then we found out it was a rare breed of a dog. And I was going, well, how much is you put your thing into the breeder, and we found this breeder. Her name is, she's no longer a breeder. She's really, really very nice person. Her name is Janet Baker. And so, again, to make a long story short, we put down a deposit on her, on Isabel, before she was born.
Wow.
And then they had a small litter, only 3, and one was the runt of the litter. And of course, we loved the runt. But the thing is, she had a flattened rib cage and she couldn't walk around. So they were saying, well, I don't know, it's probably 24/7. You have to take care of her. This is when she was a little tiny.
Right.
I think she was not even 6 weeks or something like that. So, so the grandmother of the mother of the dog, of Isabel, took care of her. Okay, so then we said, here, take the deposit and put it towards, any vet bills.
Right.
And then we'd go searching somewhere else or something like that. But
right, you were going to walk away, right?
So then our other dog, Angus, passed away, who was great. He was a Jack Russell Terrier. And we also had, here we go. Anyway, we
That's
also
okay.
had Moira, which is another Jack Russell Terrier. And so, anyway, Angus passes away. And when he passes away, then because, man, I wonder what's happening with the dog in Minnesota. So she kept on sending us, Janet kept on sending us these videos of Isabel, and Isabel's getting herself into trouble. I mean, just playing with everything.
She's a character.
Yeah, she goes, she doesn't look like she's having problems walking. And I said, are you thinking what I'm thinking? I looked at Evelyn, and as soon as we had that thought, there was an email from Janet saying, look, if you want her, you can have her. It's just, the vet gave her full clearance. She's fine. She's just got a little bit of a flattened rib cage, because it was messing with her right arm.
Her flexibility.
Yeah. Right. But she seemed to be very flexible, so I guess everything was cool. So for the price of what the deposit was, we got the dog. But what we did is we had to go to Minnesota from Los Angeles.
Oh, to pick her up.
Yeah, so we all had frequent flyer miles. So we got 2 first-class tickets with the frequent flyer miles, and signed the documents that we could put her not underneath the plane,
because under the chair. But she was still little, because she
was about this big, and then she's Astro in the Jetsons,
Yeah, she's a big doggy now. Yeah.
So we got up at 3 a.m. to get to the airport, and we had a little doggy thing, and then we got to Minneapolis via you know, the only reason why we got the first class tickets is so we could put her underneath the seat.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we got to Minnesota, then we get the car, and then it's an hour out of Minneapolis to this place.
Of course. Yeah, it's not going to be close to where
Go
you
pick
live.
up, and then mom and the grandma, which is like, like, I mean, really friendly, but you get used to that bark. It's almost like people who don't know Berger Picards and start going, they think you're going to get attacked. But no, that's like, hey, how's it going? You know what I mean? It's just like, and they're really great dogs, and they're smart. So there she is, and her sister, I think, had just been sold. But I remember she was just this little pup, and she was very calm on the porch, like looking at us like, what kept you so long? You know? So, but you got to sign the papers, and you got to and then you got to name it a certain way in the eyes. So we looked and we went, well, Isabel sounds great, so let's just call her Isabel. So then we signed the papers, and then we took her, and she just came along very willingly, like she knew us before or something, you know?
That's
like
great.
You
By
know,
the way,
we put her in this little thing, you know. And
I wanted to let everybody know, Tom, that if they want to see what Izzy looks like, she's on some of your drum videos, you know, some of your earlier ones.
Oh yeah, yes, she is.
She would always poke her head up to just try to get in your lap or get closer to the music.
Oh yeah, she's the best.
So
she's like a Muppet. You know, she's the human in a dog suit, which a lot of, you know, dogs
which
are.
By the way, your YouTube channel is youtube.com/user/Tom Brechtlein, TOMBRECHTLEIN.
Yes.
And people can also find you. Definitely go to the YouTube channel because you've been doing some pretty regular things there, and people can find you at facebook.com/Tom.Brechtlein.
Yeah, I guess I just copied the link and sent it.
I want to ask you one other question before I get to my closing questions. If you have another couple minutes, do you?
Sure.
Okay. And thanks everybody in the audience for hanging. We still see you there. And again, you can jump in if you'd like to. I want to talk about, you were talking about being your authentic self and you know, realizing at the beginning of your career when you moved to LA that, yeah, being yourself was an important lesson for you to learn, you know, that things started to open up in a different way when you did that. I want to ask you about, in context of that, the art of auditioning, because I know you are a great player. Like, you know how to deliver in the studio, you know how to deliver on tour or for television, and they're all similar but different, highly developed skill sets. But auditioning is a unique skill set as well. So can you talk about the art of auditioning and being your authentic self in that? What do you bring to the table when you audition, or how do you prepare?
You never know. Well, if I'm going to audition for somebody, let's say if the drummer left in a good position, then the artist, well, it's the same thing with subbing as well. The artist is used to that certain type of playing, like fills or whatever the beat is or whatever. So basically, you just fill the shoes. I mean, you kind of play like the guy you played before. I mean, but you're playing it, so it's like you're playing it, so it's going to come out.
Right. And
then as you get the gig, and then as they become more comfortable with you, then you add a couple of things. You know, not too much, just a little bit, until they go, yeah, I love that. You know, and that's where you get those like, wow, yeah, I like that. Keep that, you know. But that's the lesson I learned, you know. And you need to be cordial. And then there's just some auditions, you don't know what they want. So, I don't know, you play like the record or something like that. Or, you know, you don't know. So the best thing is to just see what's in front of you. I can't explain it any better than that, you know.
You are explaining it well.
Don't try to be some, you know, I mean, just, it's just observation, I guess, hearing wise, you know. It's like, because sometimes when you audition for somebody, they don't want it like the record anymore.
Right.
So you, at least to get the form of the tune, you know, at least you know the form of the tune. So if anybody tries to throw any curveballs at you, like I want to change this, I want to change that, blah blah blah, you know, like you do it like you're in a recording session,
Right.
or like you just do it like you're with your buddies and you're going over a tune that I mean, it's the only way I could describe it.
Right, but you're bringing an interesting element in, which is the people skill aspect of it, the paying attention to the reaction, to how far you can push the envelope, or while still respecting the person who was there before and what they did on the record. But you're reminding me when you say they might not want it to be like the record. It reminds me the year that I toured with Kebmo, and we were running a tune, and I started playing one of the prominent parts on the record that I had learned. And he stopped the band and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, don't I was using a wah-wah pedal. And he said, don't play wah-wah on this. And I said, "Oh, well, I thought you would want that because that's what you played on the record." And he said, "Yeah, that was a really bad idea." It's just, I mean, it was essentially, he kind of made a joke, but he said, "Yeah, I just don't like that. I don't." So I said, "Okay, I won't play it." He goes, "Take your wah-wah pedal off of your pedal board." And I said, "Well, I just won't play it." He goes, "I don't even want you to be tempted." So I had to take my wah-wah pedal out of the board before we went on tour, so that he knew that I wouldn't, of course, I never would have played it unless he asked for it. But I thought he might change his mind, but he said, take it out. I don't even want to see it.
Right.
But it's good because it's conversation. It's again, collaboration, which is one of the words that we've been talking about in our conversation.
I ended up, one of the most recent ones, why is that going up there? That's funny because that's what I'm going to talk about. This thing came up on my computer called Kenny Loggins' Bermuda. And anyway, well, I started off as subbing for the main guy on Kenny's gig.
For Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
Got it. Right.
And through a tour manager that I knew from working with Natalie Cole. And CJ Powell, great guy. Yeah. Anyway, so I had been subbing, doing the whole bit, blah, 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 blah. And then one day I came in, and because, Kenny, as long as you're doing your gig and, you're not going to get like, whoa, that was a great, or maybe, you do your gig at the end of the day, you did a good job. Okay. Right. And he's got a good loyal, he's a good guy, and he's got a certain type, he's loyal to you. If you do your job, which makes sense, makes total sense.
It does.
I loved working with him. It was great. So we came in one time, and I remember the funny part is I contracted Bell's palsy that week. So if you don't know what Bell's palsy is,
it's paralysis of your face. Right.
But luckily it was a mild case, and I got rid of it. So I'm like dealing with this Bell's palsy, like I'm eating them, whatever, So
sandwich falling out of the right.
Got the sound check, and we're going over "Your Mama Don't Dance," right? And he goes, in the solo section, I needed to change it up a little bit. I need to, so I figured, more shuffly, whatever, So I figured I'd play a blues double shuffle in the middle there, guitar solo. And then, so I just went, here goes, So I just went, I wasn't even thinking about it. I just started playing a double shuffle. Then all of a sudden he goes, stop. He goes, there he is, changing the drum book again. And I figured, is that bad? He goes, no, I love it. It's great. And I went, okay, sometimes it works the other way. Oh, there he goes, changing the drum book again. What the hell are you doing? But in that case, it was, he loved it,
Right.
And I guess he was taking notes, so.
Oh,
and,
right. He wanted to incorporate your change, and so the next guy would do that, or you would remember.
And then I eventually came up to the number one spot. You're still working your way up. You know what I mean? It's sort of
always right.
So, I mean, well, and it's fine because then you've earned it.
Yeah.
But so that was good, and that that made the Bell's palsy easier to live with.
Did you heal up pretty quickly about that from that? I don't remember when that happened to you.
The doctor, I remember I was driving. I was doing some errands, and my mouth felt kind of funny, and so I started trying to whistle like, and which I can do really easily, and I was going, how come I can't do that? So I started going, and it was like not happening, and then all of a sudden It just started going, whoa.
Drooping. Yeah.
I can't remember if it was the left or the right. But I said, well, and I had never even thought of Bell's palsy for years, or never even knew or even cared about it, And I said, and it just came up in my head. I said, well, I have two choices. I'm either having a stroke or I've got Bell's palsy. And I said, well, I'm not on the floor and I can move.
Right.
So I must have Bell's palsy. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't go see the doctor for the week because it was Friday afternoon and it's everything's closed already. So I remember going to a fundraiser that Evelyn was doing. They had Cokes and burgers, and I'm like having this Coke and it's dripping out of my. And we're just laughing about it. I mean, it's there are worse cases that are. I mean, it's not laughable, but in this case, for me, I was laughing at myself, going, And then, so I went to the doctor on Monday, and you take all the vitals, everything's cool, I'm healthy, blah blah blah. And he goes,
Good.
sit up on the bed. I sit up on the bed, and he just looks at me like this. You've got Bell's palsy, and I'm thinking, well, I could have told you that,
I knew that on Friday.
Thank you very much, $150, it's like, whatever, But that's what I thought in my head. I said, geez. So he gave me two alternatives. I think it was 6 weeks of B12, or you could take a steroid shot and it would be gone in 24 hours.
Oh.
And I said, well, I ain't going to take any steroid shot. Thank you very much.
Right.
Well, I'll go with the B12. And then it went away. It went away quite nicely.
The B12, was that sublingual? Were they pills or vitamins or shots?
Vitamins, vitamin B12.
Vitamins. Got it.
And this is vitamin B12. So I took them every day. I think he said twice a day or something.
Right.
I don't know.
In full recovery.
So that's, full recovery. Everything was cool.
I actually know about Bell's palsy because my dad had it when I was a really little kid, and it was terrifying, to look at.
Yeah, I know. You look like, it's like the eyes. I mean, I didn't have to tape my eye closed or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I did get it again.
You
I
did?
got it again. Usually you just get it once. I got it again about 2 years later, and then same thing. And I said, okay, B12, boom, boom, boom. Saved myself the doctor's appointment, and it went away.
Interesting. So I want to get to my closing questions that I ask all of my guests. And the first is, because this show is called Making It. What does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally?
Personally is surrounding yourself with the people that you love. I mean, that sounds pretty cliche, but it's true, and taking care of them, and then taking care of the new people that you meet. And, let's see, with musician-wise, as a drummer, make the other guy sound good. Check out where the other guy lives. I mean,
yeah.
Try not to. I've had my jerk times being a jerk. Try not to be a jerk so much if it comes, but also defend yourself. If you have, if somebody's gone too far,
Right. Yeah, have boundaries.
Respect yourself and respect others. That's pretty much it. And do the job. The job. Doesn't matter whether it's a poker thing or if it's the Hollywood Bowl. You accepted the gig. Once you accept the gig, whether it's what I say, a quality gig or a quantity gig, you do the best you can to make that gig work.
Right. Every time.
And then and there you go. I mean, it's like everybody's happy.
That leads.
It's not always going to be that way, but for the most part, it will be.
Right. Yeah. That leads to my next question, which you started to answer. Can you give 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Gosh, I guess that's it. What I just said.
Yeah, I mean,
check out where the other guy lives, especially the bass player. Give what the artist needs. You may not agree with it, but that's not going to tarnish your career or anything like that, or your honor or whatever. You're not giving in. You go, yeah, sure, because you're playing it anyway.
Right.
And then, if it doesn't work, at least you have your alternative,
Hmm.
and just respect the artist. And well, that's another discussion, but just respect the artist and the other musicians around you. And especially as a drummer, you're definitely a service instrument to begin with, you're an accompanying instrument. And I mean, I had to learn that sometimes the easy way and sometimes the hard way.
Hmm.
And so, and yeah, and you do. As corny as it sounds, you have to service the music and what the artist envisions, and then if you're in a group, you collectively do the same. And
Yeah, I mean, isn't that our job, or the true beauty of music, or at least what we do is to serve the song?
yeah, I mean, getting there, you go up and down, you butt heads, but at the end of the day, when you come out with something great, everybody's going, yeah, man, it's like, yeah, and it could have been like, 20 minutes ago, you guys were at odds with each other.
Right.
And then you chilled that out, and then you do the next thing, and then you get it. And then all of a sudden, the same thing when you're on the road, and it's like, and all of a sudden, shit starts coming together, and you're going to have great nights, you're going to have not so great nights, but, and then if you have a consistency, that's the best. And then you have incredible nights. Then you have great nights, and then incredible nights.
And one of the fascinating things about live performance, is that it's so subjective. In other words, I would imagine you've experienced this, Tom, when you're feeling like you had sort of a great night, but not really incredible, that it wasn't quite there, and the audience thinks it's the best show they've ever seen.
Yeah. None of that. No, I mean, I used to do that. Like, I was like, no, you just don't ruin it for the guy that listened.
Right.
You go, thank you very much. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were thinking the same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to ruin it for the listener.
No, they had a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful shared experience.
In that respect is, I don't know about that. I mean, then I go home and then I go to my hotel and beat my head against the wall or something.
Yeah, how could I have made that better? Or maybe it was better than I thought it was.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. I think the best thing that starts to keep my sanity is to, I guess, qualify it and go, okay, what did I do there? Write it down and go like, okay, oh, that's what happened. They go, oh, that's what happened. And then you can leave it.
Right.
You go, okay, well, I won't do that tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It happens again. Okay, it happened again. Let's look at it, right? It's like, don't do that.
Right. You do more of what works and less of what didn't work.
That's right.
Doc,
Doc, my arm it hurts when I do that. Well, don't do that.
Don't do that. Hey, Tom, my closing question, and after you answer this, then of course you can get final words, anything else that you want to add to the conversation and leave our audience with. But my question is, at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Behave yourself. Just behave yourself. Meaning, no. Just do no. When you're younger, you get into some stuff.
You're right.
That's, I would say, be true to the gig, do the job. Leave all your garbage, or what do they call it, issues now, or whatever, off the band,
you kids call it,
out of the studio, and then at the end of the day, when you're done, handle that. Because I think at the end of the day, when you're done, you'll feel really good about yourself if you did a great job, and then I would think that would handle any other, will help you through. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like listening to music, you play music, can be really cool.
Yeah. Leave your drama at the door.
Yeah. When you're on the bandstand, just don't,
Mm-hmm.
It's easier. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but you're there to play and have a good time for those 2 hours, or for what, and they're there to have a good time, hopefully.
Right.
So then you can look at it from like, don't spoil their bad time because you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I know it sounds so it sounds so judgmental, whatever, Oh, hate that thing. But you know what I mean? It's sort of like, why spoil it for somebody else?
Right.
You're
right.
in a group, there are other people there, and just as well as somebody's not pulling his own weight, it's like, hey man, get with it.
Right.
That's correct. And that's not me telling others, people telling me, like, hey, get with it.
Right.
Absolutely, man.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. Did that answer your question?
It absolutely did. And there's no right answer to that question. So Tom, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm
Thanks,
so
Derek.
appreciative of your artistry and musicianship, and of course our friendship for so many years.
Yeah.
It's been
Those days at the Comedy Store, that was
yes.
great.
Yep. We were
great.
reminiscing on that. We used to play at the Comedy Store and at the Improv every Sunday
That's
afternoon.
it, the Improv, not the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
In Santa Monica.
Yep. Those were some good times. Just
They were.
there. Exactly what you're talking about. We were there to play together, to make other people feel good. They were having a great time.
Yeah.
They helped us have a great time. And that was a wonderful opportunity. It was I really look forward to Sundays. And the other thing is, we were joking about this. We knew that we would at least get one hot meal a week.
That's right.
Because they fed us.
And we had parking.
Right. We had parking.
We had good parking around there. I think it was easy to park.
We did. Anything else that you'd like to close with?
No, just thanks. I haven't seen you in such a long time, and it's great to see you. And it's great to talk with you, even though I did most of the talking.
Well, that was the goal. It's great to see you as well. By the way, Tom is Austin, Texas based. So if anybody's looking for a drummer, not that you aren't able to travel as well, because you do. As touring is starting to mindfully and cautiously and safely open up, that in a way that's safe for us and for all of you that come to see us.
Might as well plug it too. I mean, I've also been recording here in this.
Right.
studio.
So this room that Tom's in right now is set up to record remote drum performances, as the room that I'm in for guitar performances. So many musicians are available now that might not have been before, and you can get world-class, I'm just going to plug it, you can get world-class drum performances and sounds just by reaching out to Tom directly. And you want to share your email? Is that the best way they can reach you?
Yeah, that's tbrechtlein@gmail.com.
There you go. So there's a beautiful opportunity if you're looking to have live drums or for live performance or recorded drums on any project, and take advantage. It's one of the things about COVID right now that in a way will turn out to have been a blessing, is that so many of us have really sharpened our skills for home recording. I mean, Tom, you already knew how to do that, so did I, but you can
no complaints yet. So
yeah, right, exactly. And that's anywhere in the world, which is really fun. Those kind of remote virtual conversations or collaborations are.
I just did one with a video.
You did?
Fella in Dublin, David Malloy.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as many others, but this one was particularly fun. And I did another one for a fella in Germany, a guitar player, producer, which was a lot. They're all fun.
Yeah.
And then with Lisa Corbet and JP. Oh, JP, I'm sorry, last name. And I call them JP
okay.
and Lisa. That's what I know.
Sure. Yeah.
And they have a group called Incendio.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fun to work with. So I did a couple of projects with them, and they're always great to perform with. I know I've known JP as JP all the time.
Don't even worry about that. Yeah. So anyway,
His last name came up like immediately. So JP, you can call me and berate me if you've watched this show. And oh gosh, now watch, I'll remember it when we.
Of course you will.
Well, because they're my good friends like you. It's
yeah.
Like, oh,
well,
boy.
JP, a shout out to you as well.
Yeah.
And Tom, thank you so much for spending this time. It's great to see you. It's great to have an opportunity to share your story and your perspective on not just music, but on life. Give my love to Evelyn. It's been a long time
Very
since
well.
I've seen her. And to our live virtual audience, I see you. I
Yeah.
see your names and pictures down there.
And my love to your better half was on the road again with Barry
That's right.
Manilow.
Yeah, Melanie's back out. This is her. They're starting up in Las Vegas with Barry Manilow again. So I'll give her your love and your best. And it's an exciting time that we are all starting to get back out there in the world again. So on that, I say thank you everybody for joining us, and stay safe, stay mindful, and stay inspired. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we'll see y'all next week.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.